Hello there guys, welcome back to another tutorial. uh, it has been a while. Happy new year. This is the first tutorial I'm doing for this new year 2022. So in this tutorial we are going to look at what is JavaScript, and we're going to look at some basic fundamentals of JavaScript. So in this tutorial I'm going to talk about just the basic fundamentals of JavaScript, and how can you get started with JavaScript as a beginner. Okay, so now what is JavaScript? JavaScript is simply a scripting or programming language that allows you to implement complex features on web pages, and these programs are called scripts, and they can be written into web pages HTML and run automatically as the page loads. So basically here JavaScript is just a language, is a scripting language, as well as also object-oriented language, whereby we have classes, objects, and so forth. But one thing with JavaScript is that it can be written into web pages HTML. That is, you can code it in your HTML, as we are going to look at here in our code editor. Okay, so now what's next? So here JavaScript can execute not only in the browser but also on the server. So what we mean here is that you can also have JavaScript on the server side. For example, the Node.js. I'm sure you have heard of it or you have used it. So it's also JavaScript. It is also written in JavaScript, and it is a programming language which you can run on the server, which actually runs on the server. So that means you can use JavaScript on both ends, front end and also as the back end. Now, the browser has an embedded engine, sometimes called JavaScript Virtual Machine. So basically what we are saying here is that JavaScript can be run on, okay, whenever you run JavaScript on, whenever it runs on Google, there is an engine that is embedded within, which is called JavaScript Virtual Machine. For example, in Chrome, we have V8, that is V8 in Chrome or Opera and Edge. So V8 is an engine or is a JavaScript virtual machine which enables you to run JavaScript on your Google. So that is what it means by this statement. In Firefox, it is referred to as Spider Monkey. All right. So the next thing is popular JavaScript frameworks that you may want to explore. So we have Node.js, Vue.js, Ember.js, AngularJS, and React.js. So if you want to explore frameworks that are written in JavaScript, for example, Node.js is a framework written in JavaScript, but this one functions on the back end. Vue.js functions on the front end. I've done also a tutorial on Vue.js or making an application using Vue.js. You can check out in my YouTube channel. We also have Ember.js, AngularJS, and React.js. Now, Angular and React are similar with the Vue. They are also front end, which are used to make single page applications on your front end. And then Ember.js is a backend programming language. So what are the topics you're going to cover? You're going to cover only some basic topics in JavaScript, and I believe these topics are going to get you started with using JavaScript. So we have variables and constants, we have arrays and objects. We're also going to cover the DOM, functions, and then primitive data types. So basically this is what we're going to look at. Just know that this is just, we're just going to look at an introduction to JavaScript. So we are not going to dive very deep, but I'm sure by the end of this tutorial, you will have a basic understanding of JavaScript. Alright, so let's get started with variables and constants. Alright, now let's look at variables. So here we're going to look at variables. And what are variables here in this? Oh, sorry, this should not be here. Let's have it here, where we have the script. like that. So this is script.js. So what you're going to do here, using any code, using any editor of your choice, a code editor of your choice. For me, I'm using the Visual Studio Code. So you can use any other code editor of your choice. And then what you need to do here, you just need to make a folder. Once you make a folder, go to the folder, open it with your code editor, and make two files here. I'm having javascript.html and script.js. This one, just ignore it. It's not. Or you can also make it as index.html, whichever. And then script.js, whereby we're going to write our scripts in this particular file. So here I'm going to have a markup for HTML. So I'm just using that sign to just generate. So here I'm going to have this one. You can change it to JavaScript like that. And let me just save it. And then now here is where we are going to write our JavaScript. So now what we need to do here for us to make sure that our JavaScript is running remember, as we have said in the slides here, JavaScript is embedded within a web pages HTML. So here we are going to write, we are going to link our JavaScript, or we are going to call our JavaScript because we are using it externally. So we are going to have this particular file which says script, and then we're going to have source, and then the source is script .js, just like that. So here when I control click, it should take me to this particular file. So now we are now calling our external file within this particular HTML. So this is how we use it. So we can as well do JavaScript on the page itself. So we can just have script, and then we close like that. So here within this one, we can also run our JavaScript from within this place. For example, when you say alert, something like alert, this is JavaScript alert, something like that. So we can have this one within, we can embed it within our Java. That is, we can just have it like this, and then just run, so that whenever we run this page, so let me just run this page. So what we have in here is that whenever we run this one, this page says this JavaScript alert. So we can use JavaScript within this page as well. We can now take it off and as well use it here like this. So I can just as well eliminate this one. Let me just take this one out. Alright, so this is it. So we are still going to have the same thing. So here when I run the alert, is going to be as so forth. Okay, so let's get going now. So now we have linked. Now something you also need to know, sorry about this. So something you need to know is that where we have embedded our JavaScript, we have called our JavaScript within the body, and as well we are also doing it just below this. Now you can also take this one like this and also have it within the header, for example. So let's say you can also call it within here. But now remember, whenever we are making any whenever you are writing our code, remember the first thing that will happen is that you'll tend to have the code being executed, and then the JavaScript is called at then. So normally it is recommended that you put your script within this place, that is just within below the body, so that you can call externally your JavaScript, and it will be, in other words, it will be called and executed well. So this is what we refer to as calling JavaScript in this manner. Alright guys, so now you just need to call it as I have said, and then you'll be good to go. So now let's start with the variables. So the first thing here, let me take out this alert. So here, so let's just begin now. What is a variable? A variable is a named storage for storing data. So basically a variable is they are just used to store data. And to create a variable in JavaScript, you just need to use this keyword, let message. So I'm just defining a variable. So the variable I've defined is message, and I've used let. Let is a keyword that we use to define variables. So in JavaScript we have let, we also have var, and as well we also have constant. But here we are going to start with let, which is now basically used today in JavaScript. So I'm going to have something like hello, like that, and then I close it with the comma. Now here I'm going to have something like alert the message. So I'm just going to alert the message. Now I'm just showing you a simple example which shows how to create variables in JavaScript. So here we have defined a variable, we have assigned the variable a particular string information, and then now we are just calling the variable. So I'm sure you know what will be the output. So now when we run our JavaScript, it's just going to have an hello. So this is what it is with defining a variable. Okay, so now so that's just a typical example. You can copy it as well for your learning purpose. Now let's say let me declare something. Let's look at another example. You can also have, for example, let me give another example like let bucket. For example, this is just another example. Let bucket is equals to water. There's something I want to show you here. Is equals to water, and then here I say bucket, which is now a variable that we have declared. So this bucket, it has water, right? Now you can change bucket from water. That is, a bucket is just, we know a bucket is just an item or an object that you can use to hold anything like water, soil, liquid, any form of liquid, or it can also be a solid, something solid like soil. So we want to exchange, sorry, not exchange, but we want to remove the water and add soil within the bucket. So here I'm having soil, which now I've put within our bucket. So here what we can say is that the value has changed, and here I'm going to alert the bucket like that. So that means what we expected here is soil. So that is a simple example that shows you variables are just storage. They're just storage. They just store values and so forth. And this value that is stored, it can also be taken out. So here we are not going to have water, but we're going to have soil. It means now we have changed our bucket from water to soil. Let's continue. We can also have an example like let me just take this one out. So you can also have something like now here I'm going to show you how you can also declare more than one variable within the let keyword. So we can have, for example, let admin, and then here we have name like this, and then here we have name is equals to John like this. Sorry, John is a string, so let me just have those double quotes. So we have John, let me close, and then we also have admin is equals to name like this, right? And then I'm going to alert the name like this. So what do you think will be the output? Sorry, so here we have the main name, and then we have John, which we have assigned. Sorry, so here we have name, and then admin. Domain is equals to name. So here it's assigned a value that is never used. Sorry, here we are supposed to call an admin and not a name. All right, so now what do you think will be the output? We have defined more than 2 variables within the let keyword, and then we have assigned them to John, and then admin is equals to name, right? So let's see what will be the output. I guess you already have done this. So the name will be John. Why? Because we have assigned the name to John, and then John is an admin, and then we are still assigning it to name again. So when you alert admin, it will print John. Now the purpose of this example is to show you that we can have more than one variable within the let keyword. That is, we can define more than one variables. Now, so what are the rules to follow when naming variables? So the first thing you need to know is that the name must contain only letters, digits, all the symbols, a dollar, for example, the dollar like this, and then as well we can also have an underscore like this. So now your name should only contain digits, a dollar, and an underscore like this. And then the other rule is that the first character must not be a digit. So you just need to have these two rules in place. The name must contain only letters, digits, or symbols, such as a dollar like this and an underscore like this. So let us see this in an example. So for example, we have so we can have something like this. So let me take this one out. So we can have something like let first name. Sorry, this is the first name. First name. We can also have since we are having first name, we can also have the last name. Sorry, yes, like that. And as well, you can also have username like this. Now, what do you see? What do you think is common between these variables as I've declared them? You can see the second letter is capital. So this is what we refer to as camel case. This is what we refer to as a camel case, whereby we are defining the first word to have small letter, and then the second word, which is the starting, it has the capital letter. So this one is referred to as the camel case. All right. So now let's continue with another example. So as we have said that another rule is that the name contains symbols such as a dollar and underscore. So we can also have something like this. We can also have something like this. Let me check. Yes. We can also have something like this. We can also have let, and then let is a dollar, which is equals to 1. I'm just trying to show you how we can have a variable declared with a symbol such as dollar. And then we can also have, again, let underscore, the underscore is we have shown to be equal to 2, like that, right? And then now what I'm going to do, I'm going to alert this, and then add it to the underscore like that, right? So what do you think would be the output here? You can just pause the video and maybe try it out and see what will be the output. But here the purpose of this example is to show you that the first rule applies. We can have symbols and as well such as this and this. So when we run this application, we should have 3 as the answer. So it's possible, right? It's possible. All right. Okay, so now let's continue. Now we have declared the variables. We have said we have defined the rules, the two rules, and then I've shown you different examples which you can follow. Now the other one we're going to look at is constants, right? We're going to look at constants. So here we are going to have constants. Now what are constants? A constant is an unchanging variable to declare, and we use constant instead of the let. In other words, constants are variables that do not change. Once you declare that variable, it will be used the way it is all over your program. So here we can have a constant. So we normally declare using the word const. Let's say, for example, a mathematical concept that is known, like pi, which is equals to 3.142. Now this is a mathematical constant whenever you are when you want to calculate a pi, and it is always, that is the formula. So this formula doesn't change. So whenever we say pi is equals to what we have just declared above, 0.12, like that. So pi is equals to this, and then we alert pi. Now what do you think would be the output? What you need to know here is that pi is a constant, right? And you can see this error that is coming here. Just look at it. Pi is a constant. Now that shows you is a constant and it can't be reassigned, right? So what I'm trying to do here, even let me remove the 3.14 and let me have something like 2.44, is that what you need to know is that you can't reassign a constant. So when we run this application here, it is not giving out any output. Why? Because you are trying to reassign, and the error will be it can't reassign a constant. So what we just need to do here is that whenever you declare constant, you just need to use it the way it is. So here it will just print the 3.12. So you can't reassign a constant. Now we also have uppercase constants. For example, we can have something like so here we have uppercase constant. So we can have something like const, and then we have something like birthday, something like that. And then let's say my birthday is 18.04.1982, for example. Let's say that's my birthday, right? Now you need to know that we can use uppercase constants. We generally use uppercase constants that are hard-coded. In other words, we know when the value is known prior to the execution and is directly written into code. So for example, I'm using an uppercase constant, but we already know the birthday here, right? So that is where uppercase constants are used. So here I can just have lat, and then we have the birthday, right, like that, and then we will just get the same the assigned, that is the value here. So what you need to know with uppercase constant is that they are declared only when we know the value prior to execution of the program, right? So for example, let me give you another example for you to understand better. Let me take that one out. For example, you can have a color code. For example, let's say we have something like const, and then here we have const color, and then the color is white. So the color is white, and we know, so you already know the color, the X code for a white color, right? So that means here we are having That is the color code for white, the X code color of white. So that means, for example, we can have something like let color be equal to, remember the color code that we have declared, that is the uppercase constant we have declared, and then here we say alert the color, like that. So what are we doing here? So it is easier to remember the white than the X value code. Now if, for example, I had put okay, now here remembering this value, for example, you can remember the FFFF, but let's say, for example, I had a color code which has something like 2, 3, 7, 8, 9. It will be difficult for you to remember, right? So what I mean here is that it is easier to remember the white. It is easier when you declare a variable here, color, and then you say the color white, which is an uppercase constant, and then you alert the color. So these are how uppercase constants work. So when we run this program here, okay, it will just give us the white X. But what you need to know is that that's how uppercase constants are used. We can also have other constant declarations, such as when we do not know what will be the output of our program code. For example, we can have something like const age, and then the age is equals to, let's say my age, let's say my age could be, let's say my age could be 27 right now, right? But we know 1 year from now my age will be 28, right? So that means that we can have const age, but now this time we are not using the uppercase constant, but we are using the small case. Why? Because the execution of this program, or the value, will change from time to time. So that's why we don't use the uppercase constant in such scenarios. So hopefully you have understood what I'm trying to mean, a difference between uppercase constant and the lowercase constant. So uppercase constant is when we know the value is known prior to the execution of the program, and then we use lowercase constant when we know that is when we know the value that it will change at runtime. Alright guys, so that is variables and constant, just a simple introduction. So we can go deeper into this, but let me just stop at that point. So you may also be wondering why I'm using alert. So alert is a method, or is a function within a JavaScript that is used to just alert whatever you type in your JavaScript program. As well, here we can also use the console. Let me just show you something. So here you can also use console to run your particular program here. So whatever I may type here, for example, let's say let message be equal to hello. So this, and then this is let message be equal to hello, and then I have something like this should be okay. This should be console dot the message, like that. So the message now here will be what? It will be hello. So this will print hello. So we can have our execution within console. So whatever we write here, we can also write it here, just like this. So we can have it like this, just like the way it is here. We can also have it in this particular manner. So this is how we use. So we can have it like that as well. You can use the alert. So that is just a quick show of console. All right, guys. So now let's look at the next topic, which is arrays and objects. So what are arrays? So an array is a data structure consisting of a collection of elements. In other words, arrays store ordered data, and you can create an array with the following syntax. So let's dive deep into this. So these are the syntax that you can use to create an array. So you can have something like let array be equal to the square brackets, and that is the first. So this is the first option of creating an array. So which is the second one? So the second one, you can also have it as this. So you can also have something like let array be equal to new, and then we have something like array then with the brackets and so forth. So these are the two ways you can use to create arrays within your JavaScript. Now the second method has deprecated, or is an old-fashioned, and it is rarely used. So we'll not look at much in this one, because even the programming, the code that you have checked that are written within JavaScript, or any scripting language with JavaScript, any code with JavaScript, you may realize you haven't seen such of the syntax. So we're only going to use this one in this tutorial. All right, so let's begin. So I'll begin with an example. So as I've said, an array is a data structure consisting of collection of elements. So here I'm going to have a variable cars, and here the variable cars is going to have something like, in other words, this should be square brackets. So I'm going to have different types of car. For example, we have Toyota, we also have Mercedes, hope that is correct, and as well we also have Tesla. Just different cars, and then I close. So that is a definition of an array. You can see now this is what we refer to as ordered collection of data, which are written in a sequential manner. So here what we can do is that once we declare an array, we can now do several things. For example, we can access a particular element within the array. So we can have alert, and then the alert, we can have something like alert 0. Now alert 0 means that in an array we have, as we have said, they are ordered, right? So they are ordered from left to right here. So this one in any array is referred to as the 0 index. This one is referred to as the first index, and then the second index. So we always, in any programming language, we always start by 0. So whenever I say alert car 0, it means this is the value I'm requesting. And as well, you can also have alert cars, and then let me just access like the second element here. Let me close this like that. So that means I'm going to have Toyota and Tesla like that, right? So this is what we refer to as accessing an array. Now we can also replace an element within the arrays, right? Now, for example, here we have Toyota, Mercedes, and Tesla. Now, let's say, for example, I want to replace the second one, which is Tesla here. So what I can do here is that, let me take this one out. So I can have something like cars, since it's the variable that we have declared. So I can have the cars, and then here within the cars I can have 2, for example, and then the 2 I'm going to say I want to replace this one with a car like a fielder, for example. So I'm replacing this one with a car like fielder. So now when I alert the cars variable here, it should have replaced Tesla with fielder, right? So this is what happens. Let's see if this is the case. Now you can see here we are having Toyota, Mercedes and Tesla. So you can replace arrays in the way you want. As well, we can also add an array. For example, now there are 3 of them, right? So we can add another 4th one. That is, we can also add another 4th car within the arrays, right? So here we can also we can also add. So for example, what I'll do here is that okay, this is already replaced by that one, so let's just remove, let's not interfere with that. So here I can have something like cars, and then I can have 3. So now 3 is, I'm adding another index within 3, and then I'm adding another car. So we can have like BMW, which is also another car here, and let's see what will be the output here. So now we have added another value within the array. So that is how we add variable within the arrays. Now we can also have we can also print the length of the cars, like how many cars do we have. For example, here we have 0, 1, 2, and then the one we have added. So I believe here we should be having 3, if I'm not wrong. So here we can have something like cars, and then using a method we refer to as length. So we can have cars dot length here. So here it will show us, so there are 4. So there are 4 of them, right? So there are 4 of them. All right. So now that is how we print the length of an array. So hope you guys are following and you're understanding something. In case of anything, just comment below this video. So another thing here is that we can also have methods such as pop and push. All right. So here let me just leave that one. So we can have methods such as pop and push. Now what do they do? For example, you can push an element to the end of an array, and as well you can also pop an element, or you can take out an element in an array. So here let me remove those, and let me have something like so here you can have, for example, cars dot push, and then what am I pushing? For example, I want to push the fielder that I had, for example. So that means here is that let me take out this length. So that means here I'm adding a value to the end. So what push does, so here I'm illustrating push. So what push does here is that it pushes an element to the end. So that is what happens here. So it will push an element to the end of the array. So cars.push fielder. So let's check what happens here. So you can see it will push the fielder to the end. So that is what happens with push. We also have pop. So pop will take out an element from the end. So here we already have cars.push like this. So here we can also have .pop. So here we want to, so what it does, it will take out an element from the end. So here it will just to take an element. So here, this one, so this one takes an element from the end, like that. So that is what happens. So we have cars.pop, and then here what I'm going to do, since we don't have filter added here, I'm going to use Tesla, for example, and then I'm going to save this particular program. So here, when we save this one, we can see we only have 2 elements within our array. So that is what pop does in our program. We also have other methods such as shift and unshift in array. So here, let's continue. So here we have a method called shift. Now shift, what it does is that it extracts the first element of the array. Now remember, we have said push and pop. Push takes out an element adds an element to the end, meaning at the end of the array. Pop takes an element from the end. So what we have in here is that I'm going to use now shift, which extracts the first element, meaning from the starting point it will extract the element. So let's see this one in action. So we have let cars like this, and then here I'm going to use something. Let me take this one out as well, so this one goes away, and then now we have in the alert. So I'm going to have alert dot shift, and then since it is a function, so what I'm going to use, what is going to do here is that it's going to remove Toyota, and it's going to alert. So here I'm having alert cars dot shift, and then I'm going to print again now alert. So I'm going to call the alert function, and then so we want now to see what is the final output. So cars dot shift, what it will do, it will remove the first element. Remember, we have said it extracts the first element of the array. So to remove this one out, and then it's going to alert our program. Alright, so here we have you can see we only have Toyota. So what it has done was, okay, so what it has done, it has removed, let me see, here we have okay, so we have alert. So what it has done here, let me just output this program again. Okay, so what it has done here is we are seeing the first, what is being printed here, Toyota, right? And then the second one here we are printing here is what is Mercedes, which is Mercedes Tesla. So what it has done, it has removed the first element, and then it has remained with the 2. Now what we can do here for you, maybe you may be confused. Let me take out this one, since it is alerting the other elements, and let's see. So you can see we only have Toyota here. So it means what it is telling you is that it has removed the Toyota. It's only that it is alerting what it has removed. That's why we are using the second alert, so as to show what are the remaining elements within the array. So we also have another one which is called unshift. Now unshift, what it will do, remember, as I've said, this one will extract the first element of the array. So this is what it does. So this one extracts the first element of the array. So now with unshift, what we're going to do here, let me also uncomment this one since we are no longer using it. So what unshift does here, unshift adds the element to the beginning of the array. Now this one will extract the first element, but unshift will add. So we have let cars, Toyota, Mercedes, like so, and then here we are going to have something like cars dot Now we are going to have the cars dot, and then we are going to call this particular function, and then here we are going to have Toyota. So what am I doing here? What I'm doing here is that I'm adding, so it adds the element to the beginning of the array. So like that. So that is what it's doing. So cars and shift Toyota. So what you're expecting here is that within this okay, sorry, we have said it adds. So if it is adding, so we are going to have something like filter like that. So it will add, remember it is adding within the array. So let's see. So you can see now it has added an element within the array, and then within the first part of the array. So that is what unshift does. So those are the methods that you can use within the array. So we have said we have what? We have pop, push, shift, and unshift. So you can pause and copy, write the program and test it yourself and check it out. Now another thing you need to know is that the methods push and pop are fast, while shift and unshift are slow. So that is something you need to know, but it may not be of importance now. So let me give an example program here of using a for loop within our arrays. Now we have been using these methods, but what happens if we use a for loop like that within our array, for example, right? So I think I can't have a comment within that part. So okay, now we are using a for loop. So I'm having a program like this, let array, I'm just trying to create a program and I'm already having the code. So okay, so we are having an array. Let me just use an array as the keyword, and then we have these particular elements within the array. So now you want to use a for loop to iterate over this particular array. So I'm going to declare I, which is a variable, okay, with this, and then so I believe you have been writing for loop statement, so there's nothing much here. So I'm going to have an array, and here I'm going to print out the length of that particular array, and then here I'm going to increment particular array here. So this is what we are having. So we're having something like for let I, which is 0, stands for the 0 index element, then I is less, then here we are asking for the length of the array, and then we're incrementing our value. So here I'm going to have a lat array, and then here the high element here, right? So let me take this one out. So what do you think will be the output here? You can pause the program and just answer so that you can understand more. So here we are having I, which is the it's starting, in other words, starting from 0, and then it will count what are the how many array elements do we have within our array variable, and then it's going to add them up and give us the total value here. So let's check what will be. So you can have the first one Toyota, the second one Mercedes, Tesla, and then which is the last one. So it is just printing for us the array value. So this is now using for loop within our array. So this is for loop like that. So you can go and exercise and learn more about it. Alright guys, so let's look at the next one, which should be objects within our JavaScript. Yes. Okay. So what are objects? Objects are used to store keyed collections of various data. So we can have properties within an object that is using this particular keyword, these particular two brackets. So within these two brackets, we can have properties of within, that is, we can have properties within our objects. In short, we have properties, sorry, within our objects. And within our objects, we have something we refer to as key and value. This is what we refer to as key value pairs. We have a key and we have a value, and then they are embedded within this particular brackets. So that is objects. Simply they store keyed collections of various data. And like arrays which store the ordered data, objects they store keyed collections of data. In other words, we have key and then value pairs. So let's just check an example. So we can have something like let user like this, and then let user is equals to, so we have now the brackets as I had showed you, and then we have, for example, let's say we have name, and then the name is Brian. So the name is Brian, and then here we normally end with a comma there, and then now we go to the next. So let's say my surname is it's Mwe, so that's my surname like that. Then let's just have those two. So we have in let user name. So this is what we refer to as a key and the value. So key with the value, just like that. So and then down the brackets as we had said. So that is what we refer to as objects in JavaScript, and this is how we write them. So a property has a key value, which is also and then we have the colon statement as we have seen, and then the value to the right. So that is how that's how objects are. Now here we can have something like alert. Let's say now we want to access the an element within an object, just like we had the arrays, whereby we could access our index array within our, that is, we could access a value or an element within an array. So here we can also have alert user .name. Now alert user .name will enable us to access a particular element within our object, so that when we print here, it should just print Brian. So that tells you we can also access the second one, right? So there's no need to explain or to do that. Now we can also remove an element. We can also remove a property, sorry, within the object's key value. So which operator is that we can use? So we can use an operator such as this one. So we can have delete, and then here we declare delete dot username like that. So once we call this one and then we alert user dot name, we expect it to give us undefined. Now undefined, why? Because Brian has been deleted. So that is how we use the delete to delete any object, or to delete, that is to delete any property within our that is within our objects. Now we can also have a for loop within our objects. Now for example, let me take this one out. So here we can also have something like let me just give another scenario here. Let's say we have variables such as fruit. So we have variable fruit. Now variable fruit is we can have name of the variable is mango like this, sorry, we have said we are using a comma and I'm using this. Okay, so we have color of the fruit, which is yellow. When, let's say, the mango is ripe, right? So yellow there. And let's say we also have the price like that, the price of the mango. And then we have the comma. Now you can see this kind of a thing, which is telling me expected indentation of 4 spaces. Sorry. Now this means that I've installed a particular package here, which is called ESLint, which is able to identify any particular errors within my JavaScript, that is in terms of formatting of your code within JavaScript. So you can also have it installed. You just need to go and search for it and then just install it within your JavaScript. There's a command you just have to run and then have it installed. So here what it's telling me, I think I should squeeze them a bit in one line like this, and this one they will just come as we continue. Now here I'm trying to illustrate using a for loop within, or a for statement within our program here. So that's what I'm trying to illustrate. So we have fruit and then we have the properties of the fruit. So here what I'm going to do here, I'm going to have something like for. So I'm going to have for let key. I'm going to define key. Now remember we say the key, this, right? This is the key. So let key in fruit, right? So the fruit, and then here I'm going to have okay, let key in fruit, and then I'm going to have something like alert the key, for example. Now what do you think will be the output of this? We should take this one out. So what do you think will be the output? So I'm alerting the key, so it means that it will print all the keys within our object's value here. So here it will have the name, the color, and the price, like that. So that is what it will print, right? But then now the next one, I'm going to have another alert here, which is now going to print the properties, or sorry, not the properties but the values. Remember the key values. So which function am I going to use to print the values? I'm going to have alert, then fruit, and then into the key like this. Sorry, it should be, I should end it there like that. So alert fruit into the key. So what I'm doing here is that I'm now accessing the values, in short. So I'm accessing the values for the keys. So here we'll have something like name, color, name which is mango, color which is yellow, and then the price which is 10. So in short, if I take this one out, I'm going to have the values alone. So let me run it again, mango, yellow, and then 10, right? So this is how we use also for within our objects. Now let me just give you one more example. So you can copy this one, if you can pause the video and copy it and see if it works for you. Now let's say, for example, I'm having a variable. Let me declare a variable here called salaries, and then within these salaries we are going to have different people with different salaries. So I'm going to have, for example, John. Just give John. So John is paid 100. Anne is paid, so Anne is paid 160, like that. And then who else? And then we also have Peter. Peter is being paid 130, right? So we should not have this, since these are prices. just forgotten them. So they are not string values, so they are numbers. So that's the thing out. So let's take this one out. We are not using that. So we have salaries, and then different people with different salaries like this. So the question is, so I want you to pause the video and do this on your own. So how can you print the total, the sum total of all the salaries? Sum total of all the salaries. So just print sum total of the salaries of these guys, and check it for yourself, and then now see the solution here. So I'd even taken out the for key, but I think I'll have to use it. So here, now this is the solution. If you have done it, then this is the solution. So you are going to declare a variable here called sum, since you want to know the sum, and then assign it to 0. And then we are going to have a for, which says let key in salaries, like this. So salaries, we are accessing the variable. Remember, now I've shown you the key, and so now you're good with this. So I'm saying here sum will be plus and then equal to. So I'm going to have salaries into the key. I'm going to key in the salaries, and then in short, what am I doing here? I'm saying let key, which is this, in salaries, which is the variable here. Then I'm saying simply this one means I'm simply saying this is what I mean. Sum equals to sum plus salaries into the key, right? So this is what this stands for. This, for example, this one, you may be wondering now, what does it mean? So this is how, so I'm adding the 0 value element, and then I'm getting all the keys with their values like this, and then I'm printing the total. So here, for this error to disappear, we should have alert now the sum, right? So this is what happens here. So let's see if this program is correct. So the total is 390. You can see 100 plus 160 plus 30. So this is how we use the for, and this is how we use the key, for key, so as to access elements within our JavaScript. All right. So there's also another method you can also use to write these salaries. That is to output this particular sum total of these salaries. So which one is that? Let me hear in the comment below. Just do it and let me see it in the comment section below. So I think we are done with arrays and objects, variables and constants. So before we look at the DOM, let's go to functions and also primitive, and then we'll lastly finish with this. All right. So what are functions? Functions are the main building blocks of a program, and here they allow us to code, and in other words, they allow us to code and call the code many times without repetition. In other words, they allow the code to be called many times without repetition. So all right, so the first one we are going to look at is what we refer to as function declaration, right? Function declaration. So what is function declaration? So to create a function, we can use a function declaration, and for example, let's say we have something like function hello world. So sorry, function hello world using the camel case. Remember we talked about in the variable section. So we have a function like that. Now what do I want this function to do? So I want this function to alert. I just want to alert something using this function. Something like hello world, right? Hello world. Okay, so hello world. Okay, like that. So this is how it's going to be. And then now you can see there's an error here. So this error is saying hello world is defined but never used using our ESLint. So what we mean here, the first thing I want you to understand is that this is how we declare function. Now function declaration is whereby we have something like we declare the function, the name of the function, and then here we can also have parameters. We can also have parameters passed here within the function, right? So we can also have parameters passed. So that's what we refer to as function declaration. We have the function, the name, and then the parameter. Even when you hover with your mouse, JavaScript has all these already predefined. It already knows everything that you are doing here. So it will even show you here there is need for parameters and so forth. So now that is how we declare a function. Now to call this function, we call the function using the function name. So here, for this error to go, we now need to call it like that, and then we can finish it with a semicolon, and now we are good to go, so that when we call this one, it should alert to us hello world. So that's just a simple way to understand functions like that. Now let's continue. Now within functions we can have function. Within the function we can have local variables and also global variables. Now this concept applies to any other programming language. There are programming language out there such as PHP. We can declare local variable here and call it and so forth. So now let's say for example I'm having hello world here, and here I declare a local variable there. So let message be equal to hello world. Something like my name is my name is Brian, right? So you can have something like that, and then here for this error to go, we'll have to call this, we have to alert the message. Now this is a local variable, right? So this is what we are recording. So message here is now local within our function program here. So now this is a local variable that we are declaring within our function, and then in our case here it is message. So when I try to run this one like this, hello world, my name is Brian, it will print, right? But what happens, for example, if I try to access the variable outside the function here, so I'm having something like this, so I take this one out and I try to access it there, so there will be an error here when I try to run the program, right? So it will not run, and when you hover here it will tell you message is not defined. Why? Because the variable is local to the function, so it can only be declared within the function itself. So we can have, now that leads us to global variable. So we can have global variable. So let's say we have something like let me create a new program here, and I say let price of a particular item here be 20. So this is going to be a string. It's going to have it as a string, and then like this. And let me take this one out, and then the price of the product is 20. Sorry, I'm doing it wrong. Here I'm going to have it declared outside the function, and then within the function here I'm going to have I'm going to change this function name. So here in the camel case I'm going to have something like show price, And then within the show price here, I'm going to declare a variable which says let message be equal to the price of a single mango. So it's just let's have a comma there. So the price of a single mango is this so I'm going to use a concatenation, which is the plus sign, and then like this. So I'm going to have something like this. So what I'm doing here, I'm declaring a variable here, price. I'm giving it the particular the price of that particular product, which is a mango. Then I'm having a function which is show price, and then I'm saying let message, and that is let message be the price of a mango is this. So here there is an issue with okay, so the price is this, and then we have in this. Okay, so this should close like this, so we can have that error going out. And then here, since we have in show price, and then we have in this, so we also need to have since there's also a variable that is declared locally, we'll also need to have it there. Now this is a ESLint issue. Just need to have it like that. And then here I'm going to call this function, remember, show price, like that, so that error should go. Now here okay, let's do what, sorry, let me take this one out like this. Okay, so guys, so generally we are declaring the variable, as you can see. So the message is let the price of a single mango is this, and then the price, and then here we are alerting. Now we don't need to use this one, we just need to use it here. So remember, the purpose of this program is just to show you how to use a global. So this is now where the global variable is being defined. So that is it. So that is where we have it being defined. So we are defining the function like this, and then this variable is outside. Remember, the other one was only inside, we do not have any other variable outside. And then now we are calling the show price, which now should print for us the particular. So the price of a single mango is 20, like that. Alright guys, so that is it. Okay, now functions can have parameters as well, as I described before. So we can have parameters within our function. Now let me just take this all out. So we can have a particular we can have parameters within our function. So for example, let me have a function that does this. So I have a function that will check the age. Okay, we have a function that will check the age of somebody, and here I'm going to pass the parameter age. So now using the if, I can have something like if age is greater or is equals to 18. Okay, so return true. I'm also going to explain what we mean by return, because functions can also have return statements. So I'm going to return true. Else, here I'm going to have something like return confirm. Okay, we can have something like you are under 18 with the exclamation mark, and then here now, okay, now since that one is now returning a confirm statement, which this one you should only have 2. Okay, so you are under 18, so this one is returning true if the person inputs 18 and above, to return true. But if he puts something that is below 18, to return you are under 18. Now this confirm is a JavaScript function that it just alerts, it will just alert to us a particular statement. For example, if the person is less than 18. So we are going to check that one as we continue with this series on JavaScript. So here, okay, what do we have here? So here we are going to have let age be is equals to prompt. Prompt is also another function in JavaScript that just gives us a prompt script, just like a form kind of a thing that comes within, just for you to fill out something within JavaScript. So JavaScript just gives us such a thing. So here I can give a predefined, a user defined already, but we can also allow the person to type any age that he wants to type. So here I'm going to use an if statement that is going to print, that is going to check the age. So here is going to check the age, and then okay, so it's going to check the age, and then here is going to alert for us, that is access granted, like this. Okay, so access, sorry, this should be there, or else it's going to, what is going to do is going to alert, it's going to alert something like access denied, right? So this is how it is. So what we are going to, so what we have in here is that so here is going to alert access denied or access granted. So that is it. So this should not be there. It's a ESLint issue. So by just clicking this one, I'm able to fix this. So basically this is what, so I just had to pause and do the formatting of the code with ESLint. So basically this is what we are going to have. So we are having a function, and then we are passing the parameter. We are checking if the person will enter the age, if it is greater than 18. So we are going to have a return statement. So what you need to know is that functions have a return statement. They can either return 0 or return a particular value depending on the program you have written. Else is going to return confirm you are under 18. So we are also going to, we declare another variable here, whereby we declare the variable itself, age, and then we are having a prompt, which is a function that lets us input the value we want to input, and then now this value is going to be checked upon, remember, within our function, and then this one is going to print if it's greater than 18, access granted, or else access denied. So let's save and check. So now when we run our program, so we have already predefined 18 here. It's already defined here. So let's just continue. So now this is what we refer to as the prompt, and then here access is granted. So now if the person was less than, let's say it was 17, and the input, it will tell him you are under 18. Sorry, this one is just defaultly coming in access granted, but should not be so. but the concept you have understood that we can have functions with parameters, and in this case we are passing age. And then remember, the return value can return anything back to the program, as we have said. So we can have more examples like this, but because of time, so let me just end this one here, and let's look at the other one, that is a primitive, like that. Now, with the primitives, what are primitives? So primitives in JavaScript allow us to define strings, numbers, etc. So primitives in JavaScript, we have string, we have primitives such as string, numbers, we also have boolean, right? We also have simple, and then we also have null, as well. We also have big int, as big int, and so forth. So in short, we have seven types of primitives. So you have string, number, big int, boolean, symbol, null, and we also have undefined. Undefined is also a primitive within JavaScript. So these are very important for you to master in JavaScript as you are getting started, because often you will be using strings, numbers, boolean, symbols, and nulls, and so forth. So these are the primitives within JavaScript. So let's look at them in an example. We can have primitives as objects. For example, we defined an object, and we said an object stores keyed collections of data, whereby we have the key value pairs. Let's say in object, we said we can have something like, let's say, let Brian, and then Brian has properties. Okay, I don't know this program. Okay, just an illustration. So you can have, for example, Brian with this particular keys and value, and then within the Brian we can have something like say hi, and then we have something we refer to as function expressions. We are going to talk about this one in another tutorial. Remember, the functions you have looked at is just an intro, but we have more of function. Like for example, we have function expressions, functions that are predefined, and so forth. So we are going to look at that one in another video. So we have something like, let's say, I Brian, and then here we are going to, now since we are using a function expression within our program here, we are going to close this one like this with a semicolon there. And then what we're going to do here to call this function expression, we are going to have Brian, which is the object, and then we are going to have say I, like this. Now remember, the other function we have just looked at, we only used to call this one alone, right? But since we are declaring a function within our object, we are going now to use the variable which has now the properties, and then the function expression, and then now we call. So here it should print for us something. So I Brian, like that. So now this is just an illustration of showing what objects can do, and then how are they related with our primitives. So we can have a primitive within, we can have a primitive as an object. We can have a string as an object. For example, let me give you an example. So let me comment this one out like this. So let me have something like let str, which will stand for string, primitive, and then we can say is equals to Brian, right? Is equals to Brian, and then I have something like alert, alert str, and then now here what I'm going to use a method which is defined within our JavaScript, which is referred to as to uppercase. You can see it's already even predefined within JavaScript. Now I want to turn this one into an uppercase, right? So what I'm doing here is that I'm declaring a variable string, which is a primitive, and then in the moment of accessing its property, a special object is created that will know the value of the string, and then it has a useful method like to uppercase. To uppercase is a method. So what I'm trying to say here is that you can have a primitive, and this primitive you can use it to convert this particular value into an uppercase. So I believe you are getting the concept there. So that is a primitive. So that's how we can use a primitive. So that now when we try to run this one, oh, function uppercase to native, so there's an error here. Okay, so that is a primitive alert. So str to uppercase. So this is a method, should have the closing bracket. So Brian with capits. So that is how we can use primitives as objects, right? Now we can also have. So I'm not going to dive much here. Let me comment also this one out. We can also have another one. We can also have an example. For example, let's say let name is equals to Brian, like that. And this time I'm not going to use the alert. I'm going to use the console, which I just shown you sometimes back. So here we are going to have console .log. Where is this one coming from? So I'm going to have console console.log, and then okay. So here I'm going to have here I'm trying to illustrate something which I'm just going to show you in a second. So we have been like that. So I'm just going to explain what I'm doing here, and then we also have console.log into object dot values, and then here I'm having the name like this. Okay, so we're having something like this. Now what am I trying to illustrate here? What I'm trying to illustrate is that we can use methods of objects on primitives. Methods of objects on primitive. So what is the primitive here? We are declaring name Brian, which is a string, and we have said a string is a primitive. And here now we are using an object on the primitive, which now we have declared name Brian string, which becomes a primitive. So the output here should show us. So if we go to the, so if I click, so let me just click inspect here. So within the console here, remember I have said this one like this. So here within the console, we should be having something here. Let me see, I think. Oh, sorry guys, so what you need to I needed to run this again since I'm not been using console much of it. So you can see what is happening here. The first one, it prints what? It prints the keys. Remember we talked about keys in the objects. So it is printing the keys, which should be the values. That is should be the number. So here we are having the number, and then the next one we are having is what? Is the Brian, which is a string. So what it is showing you here is that we can use methods of objects on primitives, and in our case here we are having the object constructor here, and then now we are having the string which represents the primitives. So guys, that is just a little intro on the primitives. We'll in the next tutorials we'll dig in deep on primitives and how to use them effectively. But you just need to understand them also now. Now the next concept and the last one we're going to look at is the DOM. And this DOM, also what we are going to look at is just an intro to it. DOM is also is somehow a huge concept in JavaScript, but I just put it here so that as you are getting started with JavaScript, you may also get started using knowing the DOM will be a very good thing for you. So let's continue. So what is DOM? DOM stands for Document Object Model and is a data representation of objects that comprise of the structure and content of a document on the web. In other words, DOM represents the page so that programs can change the document structure, style, and content. In other words, DOM typically modifies the document within your HTML. Now, for example, if this is an HTML program you're having, and let's say you want to change some particular elements within your HTML and so forth, DOM will highly we can use certain JavaScript methods, functions, and so forth to change how the document appears. And this one is done at the runtime, and it is very useful because JavaScript now this is where you now get to see JavaScript interactiveness of the JavaScript. For example, you have gone to websites and you found there are some elements that are popping up in animation, some changes you can see within within a website. So most of these things are done with JavaScript, and JavaScript DOM is one of the most important concepts that you just need to learn. Now, this is just an introductory on getting started with the DOM. So as I've said, it's not something that I'm going to do I'm not going to dig that deeper in. So what are we going to do here? So what we're going to do here, let's start with an example. So as you have said, now when you look at your page here, JavaScript HTML page, you can just take note of this. You realize that this is a page, and this page, it has an header. We can also have the body. You can also have the footer, just like you see in any particular website. Now here we can have something like let's say within your JavaScript, or let me just write it here. Now within here you can have something like document.body. Now document.body stands for the body of your page, and within the body of your page, using a particular function like this one, you can access the elements within the body, right? So let me just show you within this one in an example. Now I'm just going to create something small here. For example, within the body here, I'm going to have an h1 style which equals to text, and then I'm going to align this one to the center, and then I'm going to have something like welcome to JavaScript. So when we go to this one, we're going to have something like that, right? And then now that is just within the body. Okay, that's just so that it is not blank. Now, so where does DOM come in? Now with DOM here we can have something like now I had used that concept of document.body. Let's see how it can work. So I can have something like document.body.style, right? This is just how we declare these things. Dot background. So I want the background of this particular page to be blue, right? And let me close it like that. So I'm going to make now the background of this particular body to be blue. So as I declare it like this, let's check if it's going to turn to blue. So you can see it's turning to blue. So what have I done? I've just accessed the body of the HTML and then given a style and then the background. So I've just used the body, the document.body within the JavaScript, and then I've indicated the style and then the background, which turns it to blue. Now let's dig in deeper. We can also do something like, we can also say like, for example, set timeout, which is already predefined here. So set timeout. So here we are going to have a timeout like, no, don't need this one. I only need this one like this. So I can also have timeout within the document and say something like, I think I need to take this one. Okay, so here I just have it like that, and then here indicate the timeout to be, okay, this one will be just a single quote and then to be 4000 milliseconds like that, and then I close this one with something like that. Okay, so I think this is good to go. So I'm just now giving it to, I'm just now indicating after this particular time, this one should, that is the style.background should disappear after the given amount of time. So let's check, let's see, this is, see, now it's going to happen. So after this particular amount of time, it disappears, right? So this is, we are just digging deeper to see how the DOM, how you can manipulate the DOM. Now we also have another function. Referred to as document.get element by ID or just by ID. Now what does this one do? For example, let's say we are having, let's say here I create a div. So I create a div here. It has an ID. The ID equals to main. Okay, so ID equals to main. Now within the ID, let me have a div ID of, it's just an illustration anyway. So this is just the main content like this, and then we close it such like. Now I'm having something like this. So let's say this is a particular div within your web page. It has it's the main content. So I want to access the ID of this particular element. So how am I going to do it? Now you can use something like, you can say let element, which I'm having there, equals to document. Okay, so I'm going to have document get element by ID, and here I'm going to get the main element there like that, and then, sorry, this should be closed like that. Yeah, so I'm going to get this element, right? It's assigned a value but is never used. So I'm having this one, I'm declaring it, I'm getting the element, and then I'm getting the element by ID, which is the main, and it should be this one. Now here we need to define, so we have defined the let element document get element by ID. So what we are doing here is that I'm going to say this element, since I've now gotten it, I'm going to say element of style dot background, right, dot background, let it be equal to red, like this. So okay, so now this element which I've defined it is the main, this one. So I want it to be red. So let's see. Okay, now this, okay, all right. Now this element, we are getting it by ID, right? Now this element could also be, sorry, this should have been, I think I'm a little bit getting tired, that's why, maybe. But remember, we are getting this element, which is the ID, the main content, and then we are now printing something like, okay, we are now changing the element and we're making it to be red. So this is what I was trying to show you within this one. So that's how it is, guys. Just getting the, knowing how to manipulate the DOM and so forth. Okay, guys, now we also have another concept. We also have another function or function method within JavaScript, which is called query selector all. So what does query selector all does? It returns all elements inside an element that matches a given CSS selector. Now, for example, I'm having a program like, let me show you. So we get to have something like this. So let me just put it there. So we have something like this. So we have ordered, that is an ordered list, and then it has mangoes, oranges, and bananas. Now I want to use a query selector all to select only the last element within this particular markup within my HTML. So how am I going to do that? So this is how I'm going to do. So I'm going to have something like let elements. So let the elements be equal to document. So I'm having document there, dot, then the query. So this is the one. So query dot selector all, and then what I'm going to do here is that I'm going to have an ordered list where I'm going to have it like li into last child. So I'm getting the last child within that particular list, and then I'm now going to print it. Now here I'm going to use a for because remember they are elements, that is they are more than one. So I'm going to have something like L of elements, so that now I can iterate over them and get the last child element. So alert into element like that, and then inner.html. Now inner.html means that I'm now getting what is within the HTML inside my, and so inside the list of elements. So remember, the whole target is I want to print this particular last element. So here you can see what we are doing here is that we are declaring a variable, then we are using query selector all, and then we are getting the last child, which should be this one. You can see here. And then what I'm doing here, I'm using the for statement to loop over them and then get the inner.html, that is the inside element, which is bananas in our case. Let's see if this works. So out of that, you can see it is bananas. So we have gotten the bananas. So that's how it works. Now query.selector all is a powerful statement. It's a powerful tool that you can use within JavaScript. Now, unlike the document.get element by ID and other ones that we are going to look at. Query selector is powerful. That's why in modern JavaScript we are mostly now, you can see we are using the query selector. We also have query selector and query selector all, so there are two. So query selector will only select one element. Query selector all will loop over different elements, and since here we have indicated we only need one, so it prints out only one. Now let's do another example on modifying the document on the DOM. Now I want to create a message, and this message will have three steps. It will have creating the div element, set a class, that is an alert class, and then fill the content, that is print out a particular message within the program. So what am I going to do here? So since I've already made the program, so let me just copy some of it. So what we have in here is that I'm having a style dot alert, and this alert has this particular styling. Now you're going to understand what it's going to do. Just know that we have a style and then alert dot alert, and then it has this styling. Now here the purpose of this is I'm creating a message. So this is create a message, and then this message is we are styling part of it, the alert, as I've shown you. So I'm having something like let div be equal to document dot create element, and here we are having div. So this is a div like that, and then I'm going to have a div dot class name with a camel case like that, and then this equals to alert. So I'm just going to explain what I'm doing here. So div dot inner HTML is equals to something like you have unread mail notifications. You have unread mail notifications, something like that, and then okay, so you can just close it, then close it with like that. So what are we doing here? We are creating a message that will just print it will just print you have unread mail notifications like that. So that is what we are doing, and then now this styling is just styling a div, which is div class name alert. So we are just styling that, and then now within here we have said let div, the div of the document, have document.create create element div, right? So it's going to create for us a div, and then we are now going to style it, and then within that div we are going to have a message. Now since we want to show that message within our document, we are going to have something like document dot body dot append div. And now what this one does is that it's going to append for us the div, it's going to append for us the particular message within our HTML. So let's check, just a simple program. So there is nothing. Okay, this is date. So you can now see you have unread mail notification, right? So that is what I was just speaking about here. So it's just a simple program that you can use to just understand more about the DOM. Now as we had used the time, we can also remove the message, for example. So we can also have something like set timeout. Okay, so I only need up to that part. Set timeout, and within the set timeout we can have, for example, div.remove. Let's say I wanted to remove it in short, so I can have it like that, and then this is 1000, and then okay, so this is okay. So what I'm doing here, after 1000 milliseconds, is going to remove this particular. It's going to remove this particular node or this particular div. So let's see. Okay, so you can see it disappears after search. So this is how we can manipulate our DOM. This is how we can manipulate our DOM to bring about different interactivity within our website. Now I'll just stop here because the video has been a bit long, and we'll explore more on the DOM. So if you feel that you need more of this tutorial, that is, you need more, let's say, to continue with the DOM, just comment below, and then I'll see how we can do it. So guys, like this video, subscribe, share it, and let me see you in the next tutorial. All right.